Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and welcome to Season 2 of It Came From the Sump, our series dedicated to the Necromunda Community Event co-hosted by Dr. Drybrush, as well as myself. It Came From the Sump as a vehicle-based narrative Necromunda campaign set in the Sump Sea of Necromunda. And on today's episode, we are going to talk about Battle Report number 9, which is a Deus Ex Machina scenario that's fought between my two friends, the Kiddo, as well as Warlord Ace. My little sister, the Kiddo, is bringing the Wild 7, which is her Venators Sump Pirate Gang, versus Warlord Ace of the Velvet Privateers, I do apologize, of House Van Saar. So we're going to play some background music real quick. As the music is playing, we'll show you guys photos of both rosters, as well as their characteristics. And because this video is a little bit more of a deeper dive, I will put timestamps in the description box down below, so that way you can click and navigate to the part of the battle report that interests you the most. So that being said, let's go on and talk about Battle Report number 9.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
So the scenario rules for this one is Deus Ex Machina, which is a scenario that can be found in the Van Saar book House of Artifice. In this scenario, the Van Saar will be the attackers, while the Venators will be the defenders. Now, the Venators will of course have a random selection of 10 fighters from their roster, while the Van Saar have a custom selection of 10 as well. We also have standard deployment for both gangs as well. Now, the idea behind this, of course, is that there is a special rule called Ghost of the Machine Spirit, where basically a relic that is possessed by a member of the Venators contains the abominable intelligence that they picked up at a tech trinket. What this does, of course, it gives them a +1 to each of their characteristics. It also gives them a 5 of armor save that's unmodified by armor piercing as well. The goal of this scenario is for the Vans to try to capture the abominable intelligence, and they do this by actually taking the fighter who has the relic in position out of action. In which case, any of the members of Van Saar within 1 inch of that trinket can then take a double action, which is to operate a containment device. They must pass an intelligence test with a -2 modifier in order to take possession of it. Now, once they have it, of course, all they gotta do is bring it back to the deployment area, and they wander away. Now, at the same time, of course, the Venators can try to keep it if they want to by attacking people and try to steal back the abominable intelligence back again. Now, the ending conditions for this battle, of course, if only one gang has fighters remaining on the battlefield, or if the abominable intelligence has been captured. Those are the two ways, of course, that you can actually win this battle report. Now, for the rewards on this one, the winner earns D6 times 10 credits. At the same time, you also get the same amount of experience points as you usually get. Additionally, you get 1+ experience point for taking part of the battle report, and you also earn D3 intelligence if you manage to D3 experience points if you manage to capture the abominable intelligence for the Van Saar. Reputation, the winner earns D3 points of reputation from this one, and if any gang battles out, they lose 1 point of reputation. And at the same time, if anybody's fighting for the very first time, which is the case here in this situation, they get additional bonus point for their reputation. Alright, so that takes us back to the mini-map for the deployment on this one. As you can see, the little mini-map is an orbit shot of the entirety of the battlefield. The fighters in yellow represent Snow White and the Wild 7, which is the Venator gang, played by my little sister, the Kiddo. If you notice, each of their fighters, of course, have numbers associated with each of the different fighters as well. Player number 8, which is Dopey from the Wild 7, that character is actually highlighted in magenta, and the reason why is because Dopey is the one that was randomly determined to have the Abominable Intelligence. So that's the fighters that the members of House Van Saar will go up against to try to attack them. At the same time, the Velvet Privateers will be represented by the cyan colored numbers as well as their names. As you can see, we have numbers associated with each of those characters as well. So let's go out and talk about exactly where everyone is deployed at. So starting over here in the top left-hand corner of the battlefield, we have 4 members of the Wild 7. In the back right-hand corner is Snow, the White Line Nightmare Vestia, was the Escher Hunt leader for this gang. Right next on the left-hand side, that is Sleepy, that is the Venator who's armed with a needle rifle. To her right, in the front of her, is Doc, that is the Venator's armed with an Ironhead's autogun, and then right next to him on the left-hand side is the Champion's Sneezy, which is the Champion's armed with a Nightshade Chemthrower. And that pretty much makes the deployments over here on the left-hand side of the battlefield for the Venators. Deployed in the upper right-hand corner of that little concrete island is Dopey, which is the ferryman rig hand for the Abyssal Ferryman team. We're using the characteristics as well as rules for Aster Felstern. We just changed the names so that way, narratively speaking, it would fit. If you notice, she also has this little skull icon right next to that character, and that's represents the fact that that character is carrying the Abominable Intelligence. Now, on the left-hand side is the normal characteristics that Dopey would usually have, but just actually pretend that everything has +1 attached to it because this person is in command of the relic. And then right next to them on the right-hand side, of course, is Grumpy, which is represented by Hagthor Yarlin's characteristics and rules. We just changed the name order to narratively fit the campaign. And at the same time, this character is also the Abyssal Ferryman skipper for this alliance that they have. Right behind the sniper post in the upper right-hand corner on the left-hand side, that is Happy, which is, right on the bottom, sorry, that's Happy, which is the Squat Hunt champion. That character's armed with Kindness, the mining laser. That has got a suspensor attached to it. And right above them is Bashful, which is another hunter who's armed with a long rifle with an infrared sight. Meanwhile, on the center of the table, we have Silas, which is one of the Neotechs from the Velvet Privateers of House Van Saar. That character on the right-hand side, of course, has got the pink-colored graph cutter. He's got a hand flamer as well as a last pistol. And right next on the left-hand side is Delacroix, which is another Neotech who's armed with a high-strength energy shield as well as a last pistol, as well as carrying photon flash grenades. Making up the Van Saar's center, on the back center, that is Ralderon, which is the Prime. That character is armed with a armored body glove, flak armor. They also got a combat pistol with an Ephrosite attached to it, and that combat pistol is a combination of both last pistol as well as a melt-again. They also got a backup last pistol for a backup weapon. On the left-hand side, that is Anaya. That is one of the subtechs, is armed with twin last pistols. On the right-hand side, that is Lexi, which is, of course, one of the techs that's armed with a suppression laser. And make up the Van Saar's right-hand flank on the left-hand side. In the back, that's Balderon, which is the Augment, who's armed with a plasma gun. Up in the front of him is Jax, which is one of his techs armed with a hotshot last gun. And meanwhile, on the right-hand side, in the back, that is Fiordalis Minigina, which is basically the mass killer for the gang. He's got a power sword, all kinds of good stuff. And then right next to him in front is Violante, which is the Mind Frayed. And that pretty much makes up the deployment for the Van Saar as well as for the Venators in this one. So deployment over with, we'll go directly to the top of turn number 1, and both my friends will all for our priority to see which of them will be going first. Alright, so we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and my friend Warlord Ace managed to win the priority on this one, so because of that, Van Saar will be going first. And for his very first activation, Warlord Ace decides to do a group activation with his House Catalyst Carnival. Fiordalis Minigina does a group activation with Violante, the Mind Frayed, and both those fighters do double movements forward across that gangplank that's running in front of them, making their way closest towards the Dopey, which is the Venators carrying the Abominable Intelligence. So here's a close-up of the minimap. As you can see, players number 9 and 8, which I've highlighted in green on this one from the Velvet Privateers, they just do a double movement walk across that gangplank. And if you'll notice, this time around in the battle report, I will be using different colors to represent the fact that people have been activated in this game. One of the comments I received in one of my early videos is that I was using the same color gray for everybody. It made it hard for people to determine which side is which one. So for the Velvet Privateers, they're highlighted in green. You know that they've actually been activated, while the Wild 7, the Venators, if they're grayed out, you know that they have been activated as well. I forgot the name of the commenter who made that suggestion, but thank you very much. It was extremely helpful, and I used that in this video. And here's a close-up of Fiordalise Melagina as well as Violante making the way directly towards that center structure, looking right across short distance from Dopey as well as Grumpy. I think the plan here, of course, is that my buddy Border Ace is planning on using his House Catalyst Carnival as a bait because it's a pretty low stakes that these guys go out of action. So I think what he's trying to do is trying to bait them so that way they can close a distance with this little alliance delegation, so that way they were within shooting range of the Van Saar shooting attacks. Pretty bold plan. And plus, at the same time, of course, if they pin Violante, of course, lets out that infectious terror rule and kind of scatter the forces. So it's a pretty smart bait. So now, to be outdone by the Van Saar, my little sister Kyo decides to do a group activation as well, activating Grumpy as well as Dopey, and she decides to use Dopey first. And the reason why is because Dopey's going to declare a charge directly against Violante, and the reason why is because they have that relic, which gives them +1 to all their characteristics, and of course, they have no problem making that connection whatsoever. So here's an overview shot of the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, player number 8, which has been highlighted in magenta, that represents Dopey. That ferret fighter is in that bright magenta color, in terms of the fact that she is carrying the abominable intelligence, so that way she has all those +1 to all of her characteristics. And here's a close-up of Dopey charging directly into Violante, and those two of them are going to be throwing it down as well. You can see that little red targeting circle around top of Violante, in terms of the fact that she is the target for this close combat attack. So Dopey, of course, is targeting Violante. She is armed with both a stub gun as well as an axe. She gets strength 3, 1 damage, as well as sidearm trait for the stub gun. The axe is striking at strength 5. Normally be strength 4 because you get the +1 bonus from the strength, but because Dopey does have the relic, it gives it a +1 strength, making it strength 5, so absolutely devastating. Also causes 1 damage and has the potential to disarm your opponent as well. So Dopey has 4 attacks base. They get +1 from charging as well as +1 for the additional hand weapon. Now originally, of course, Dopey has only 3 attacks, but the relic gives him 1 additional attack, which gives Dopey the grand total of 6 attacks in total. Now Dopey does have a weapon skill of 3+, so because of that, they roll 3+ on 66 in order to strike against Violante. Unfortunately for the kiddo, though, she pretty much kind of flubbed her attack. She only got 1 hit from the stub gun as well as 1 hit from the axe as well. So the stub gun is striking at strength 3 against toughness 3. She will need a 4+ to wound, and because the axe is striking at strength 5, so strength 5, I do apologize, against strength 3, she'll toughness of 3, she'll need a 3+ order to wound. Both those attacks, of course, wound, and Violante does not have any armor whatsoever, so just like that, Violante now takes 2 wounds. When they rolled it for the injury dice, Violante actually suffered a serious injury as well as an out of action roll, so because that Violante does go out of action, but it's no harm, no foul, she'll make a full recovery because she is part of an alliance delegation as well. And finishing up the rest of that activation, Dopey, of course, then decides to consolidate and follow through, moving 2 inches closer directly to Fiordalise Melagina, so that way they can engage each other in close combat later on if they wish. So here's a close-up of the mini-map. As you can see, player number 9, Violante, has been blackened out in terms of the fact that she's been taken out of action, and her name has also been redded out as well. And that actually makes it the first half of the group activation, because now we're moving on to Grumpy now. So Grumpy, of course, is going to take a simple action in order to move up closer, so that way he's within range of firing his scatter shot from his Abyssal Pattern shotgun, and he's going to take a basic action to open fire as well. So here's a close-up of Grumpy moving up forward to Necromunda Lounge, well within the short range modifier of opening fire with his Abyssal Pattern shotgun directly against Fiordalise Melagina, and of course he's going to open fire using scatter shot on that one, so that way he's got better chances of actually wounding. So here's a close-up of the minimap once again. As you can see, fighter number 7 has been grayed out for the Wild 7 because he's been activated. The yellow arrow shows that he's moved up forward, and then a red arrow to show that he's opening fire with that shotgun directly into Fiordalise. So Grumpy's opening fire at Fiordalise Melagina with his Abyssal Pattern shotgun. He decides to go with a scatter shot on this one. Now because of that, the short range modifier gets +2 to hit on this one, also striking at strength 3 with 1 damage and scatter shot, which means that the kid will get D6 wound rolls against Fiordalise Melagina. Now Grumpy does have an unmodified ballistic skill of 3+, and with combined with that 2+ to hit, needs a 2+ in order to hit against Fiordalise. And the reason why is because you just don't roll a 1, just because you can't get absolute automatic hits in this game. As you can imagine, Grumpy managed to hit no problem whatsoever, but during the rapid fire dice, of course, did trigger the ammo test, but with the ammo test of only 4+, Grumpy was able to pass that ammo check no problem. Now when it came for the D6 wound rolls for the scatter shot, the kiddo rolled a perfect 6 on that one, so she'll get 6 wound rolls. With that Abyssal Pattern shotgun firing at strength 3 versus Fiordalise's toughness of 3, the kiddo needs a 4+ in order to wound. Of the 6 wound rolls, the kiddo managed to land 4 wounds directly against Grumpy. Now, Fiordalise actually has a couple of things to protect her. First of all, she has the dodge skill, so she takes a d6 in order to save, so she managed to get that armor save. And she's also got mesh armor, gives her 5+ armor save as well. She managed to dodge 1 wound, but unfortunately she's failed the other 3 wounds for her mesh armor, so 3 wounds go directly onto Fiordalise Menagina. When it came to the wound rolls, there was actually 2 serious injury rolls as well as 1 out of action roll. So because that Fiordalise Menagina goes crashing face down into the cold, hard decking, and she goes out of action, making a full recovery. Because she is an alliance delegation, so she doesn't really roll on the injury table. And here is a close-up of the minimap. As you can see, fighter number 8, Fiordalise Menagina from the Velvet Privateers has been blackened out and her name highlighted in red because she is no longer participating in the battle report as well. And as you can see, the Abyssal Fragmentary being very aggressive in the upper hand corner of the battlefield. So not to be outdone, my buddy Warlord Ace decides to do another group activation, this one with Bolderon, his augment, as well as Jax, his tech as well. Balderon actually takes a basic action to aim, so that he gets +1 to hit with his plasma gun, and another basic action, open fire with his plasma gun directly across the battlefield. So here's a close-up of the minimap. As you can see, fighters number 4 and 2 for the Velvet Privateers have been highlighted in green, representing the fact these guys are being group activated as well. And Bolderon, which is player number 2, is opening fire with that red line directly to Dopey, who is across the battlefield. And just like I suspected, I thought that was the case. My buddy Warlord was using his alliance delegation as bait, and looks like the kiddo fell for it, because now it is guns o'clock, and it's time for the Venators to open fire. So as you can see, Balderon does have his work cut out for him. He is opening fire directly at Dopey. He does receive partial cover from that cinder block that he's hiding behind, that little hedgehog over there, so because he will suffer the -1 to hit penalty. So Bolderon is firing a plasma gun, which strikes at strength 5, -1 AP, causes 2 damage, and rapid fire 2 dice on this one. So that's a rapid fire 1 die on this one. So that is quite scary. He does suffer -1 to hit penalty because of the partial cover of that cinder block protecting Dopey, but he did take a basic action aim, so he gets +1 to hit, so it mitigates it. Striking at a modified ballistic skill of 2+, he's got to have no problem striking at 2+ to hit with rapid fire 1. Not surprisingly, Balderon does manage to hit Dopey, but not only that, also managed to hit him twice with that rapid fire dice. Because of that, strength 5 from the plasma gun against a toughness of 5 for Dopey, getting +1 because of the relic, ends up being a 4+ in order to wound. My buddy Warlord Ace rolls boxcars, rolling 2 double 6s, so because he does manage to hit twice as well as wound twice as well. So Dopey's armor with light carapace armor gives him normally a 4 up to armor save, but because of the -1 AP from the plasma gun, that goes up to a 5+ in order to save as well. Unfortunately for my little sister, the kiddo, she fails both her armor saves, putting 4 wounds directly onto Dopey. Dopey has 4 wounds because of the relic, so because of that, my buddy Warlord Ace rolls 1 injury die, rolls a skull on that one, so because of that, Dopey does go out of action. He'll make a full recovery though because he's part of an alliance delegation, and at the same time, the relic containing the abominable intelligence is also dropped as well. So that little Battlemaster skull die is going to stay right there on the tabletop until someone runs up and collects it. And here's a close-up of the minimap. As you can see, player number 8 for the Snow White and the Wild 7, which is Dopey, has been blacked out, and his name has also been highlighted red, representing the fact that he has also been taken out of action. So the first half of the activation done with for Bolderon, now comes to Jax. Jax, the tech, is armed with a hotshot last gun, and he's going to basically do double actions to move up across the gangplank to make his way directly towards that gang relic. And here's a close-up of Jax doing that, making precariously walk across that catwalk, trying to make his way directly towards that relic. Hopefully he'll be able to get in close and be able to snag that in the next turn using a double action. And there's an overlay show of the minimap showing player number 4, Jax, has been greened out, moving up forward along that catwalk, moving up in order to secure that gang relic. Moving back across the tabletop, Happy decides to do a group activation with both Happy as well as with Bashful, and both those guys do double movements in order to climb the sniper tower, so that way they go directly to the 2nd floor. As you can see, they have a beautiful line of sight now over the entirety of the right-hand side of the battlefield. That way they can snap anybody that tries to cross that catwalk, heading directly towards that gang relic. Meanwhile, Warlord Ace does a group activation with Balderon, his leader, as well as Lexi as his tech, as well as Onaya, his sub-tech, and all 3 of those fighters actually do double movements directly to the right-hand side, heading closer towards the relic, moving their way up to the right-hand corner of that little concrete island they're on, so that way the next turn they can basically bum rush across the catwalk and try to grab that relic as quickly as possible. My buddy Warlord Ace did a really good job of actually concentrating his forces on this one, so that way he can take full advantage of the numbers that he can bring in this battle report. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side of the battlefield, my little sister the Kiddo decides to do a group activation with Sneezy as well as Sleepy, which are the two fighters who are located in the front of this little 4-man fire team. Both those characters, of course, do a double movement to move up forward directly across that across a catwalk, across the sump, making their way towards that center tower that is located in the center of the battlefield. Meanwhile, across the tabletop, Warlord Ace decides to activate one of his Neotechs. That Neotech is Silas, which is the fighter who's riding the magenta-colored grav cutter. He's also armed with a hand flamer as well as a las pistol. And what he decides to do with this character is actually have him do double movements, moving up 16 inches up to the upper right-hand corner. He goes sailing and surfing across the sump beneath the catwalks, heading directly to the far right-hand corner, so that way he can get within range and secure the Bonneville Intelligence, possibly in turn number 2. For the Kiddo's last activation, she does once again do a group activation with Snow, Whiteline, Nightmare, Vestia, as well as Doc. And both those characters, of course, end up joining Sneezy as well as Sleepy on that catwalk, doing double movements forward so that way they can make their way directly towards that center tower, which is located in the middle of the battlefield as well. For Warlord Ace's very last activation, he decides to activate Delacroix, which is his Neotech, who's armed with a las pistol as well as high strength energy shield, as well as grav cutters. He's all photon flash grenades as well as his grav cutter as well. He's the one driving the teal-colored grav cutter as well. So what he decides to do is to do a simple movement to move him directly to the left-hand side, moving him directly towards that little triangular-shaped tower, so that way he can kind of take advantage of that cover from that little leg from that tower, so that way anyone who tries to fire back suffers a hit penalty. And he does another basic action, open fire with his last gun, his last pistol, directly at the 4 fighters who are trying to cross the bridge, specifically firing at Sneezy first. So Delacroix opens fire with his last pistol, just an inch short of actually hitting the short range modifier on that one, so quite set on that. But that last pistol still striking at strength 3 with 1 damage, and it does have the plentiful weapon trait as well. He does have a unmodified ballistic skill score of 4+, so he needs a 4 up in order to hit against Sneezy. Now he does manage to hit Sneezy, but he fails to wound though, right? And now I was thinking, like, why would you try to fire like a strength 3 weapon against a toughness 4 fighter? It's not going to really work out for you. But what happens is this though, they're crossing that crosswalk, which means that of course that they have to take an initiative test to make sure they don't fall directly into the sump. Now unfortunately for my little sister the Kiddo, Sneezy is a Ironhead Squad Prospector, which means he's got initiative of 5+. So because of that, the Kiddo takes her initiative test and fails it, which means that now Sneezy has fallen directly into the sump. Fighters who fall directly into the sump do have to take a strength test to see if they go out of action or not. Unfortunately, the Kiddo failed hers, so because that Sneezy does actually go out of action on this one, and because of that, he suffers a 44, which is an eye injury, which means he's got -1 ballistic skill to his characteristics, and at the same time, he also goes in recovery. Now, that part is kind of tragic because he does lose 1 to his ballistic skill, but he is firing a template weapon, which automatically hits, so no harm, no foul. But that recovery, though, does kind of go bad for them. Now, luckily for the Kiddo, though, she does manage to pass her cool test with Snow White, so because of that, the rest of her fighters on that walkway also pass her cool test, and the Kiddo now does realize that she's in a really precarious shape because a lot of her fighters have really poor initiative skills, so if they don't be careful, they're going to be taken out of action and falling into the sump. And as you can see on the little mini-map, fighter number 2 for Snow White and the Wild 7 has been blackened out with the name highlighted in red because that fighter has been taken into action. And just like that, all the fighters on the tabletop have been activated, which takes us directly to the end phase. So with that, we go directly to the end phase of turn number 1. Both gangs do manage to pass their bottle test, so both of them are still sticking around. Right now, it's kind of tied in the number of fighters that both sides have lost. Snow White and the Wild 7 have lost Sneezy, as well as Dopey in the first turn, while the Velvet Pirateers have lost Fiordelise Magina, as well as Violante in their very first turn as well. So because of that, we go directly to the top of turn number 2. My friends roll off for initiative to see which of them will have priority. Alright, so we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and once again the Saar managed to get the initiative on this one, so because of that, my buddy Warlord Ace will be able to activate first. So his very first activation, once again, decides to activate his Neotech Delacroix. That is the Neotech is armed with both a las pistol as well as a high strength energy shield. He's also packing photon flash grenades as well. And he decides to basically to repeat the same thing he did before by taking pot shots with his last pistol. This time he plans on opening fire directly onto Sleepy, which is the next fighter who's closest to him on that little gangplank. So once again, Delacroix is targeting Sleepy, packing a las pistol, firing at strength 3 with 1 damage, as well as the plentiful weapon trait. He does have ballistic skill 4 up, so because that, Delacroix will need a roll of 4 in order to hit Sleepy. Now he does manage to hit Sleepy, but once again fails to actually wound him because Sleepy of course has a toughness of 4 and he's striking at strength 3. So because it does fail, but this does trigger an initiative test because Sleepy has to see if he actually stays under the gangplank or falls off of it as well. Now unfortunately Sleepy does have a 5+ for his initiative test, so the kid rolls for initiative and fails it. So just like his champion Sneezy, Sleepy does fail his initiative and falls directly into the sump. The kiddo does have to take a strength test, but unfortunately fails it, so because of that, Sleepy does go out of action with the Alcope results. So he will make a full recovery, so no harm, no foul there. But unfortunately, he does no longer participate in the battle report, and that's one less fight that my little sister kiddo actually has time to keep on the tabletop. Once again, Snow White does pass her cool test, so because of that, so does Doc. At the same time, Delacroix decides to do another simple action and to rocket back across the battlefield where he started from, so that way he can take some sanctuary in that location, not to worry about being shot at. So kind of a sneaky little play there by my buddy Warlord Ace. And here's a close-up of the mini-map. As you can see, play number 4 for Snow White and the Wild 7, Sleepy has been blackened out and his name highlighted in red to represent the fact that he's no longer participating in this battle report. As you can see, fighter number 6, Delacroix, with that blue line there, also kind of rockets to the right-hand side, managing to escape from being shot at. So going back across the tabletop in the upper right hand corner, my little sister the kid decides to do a group activation with both Happy as well as Bashful. Now Bashful decides to open fire first just because he's got the long rifle, he's up in front, and he's also got the fast shot ability. So instead of taking a basic action aim with his long rifle, he's going to decide to fire twice at Jax, firing his long rifle directly at him. So here's a wide angle shot. As you can see, the fighters are from the right hand side in that sniper's perch, opening fire on Jax, who's on that little catwalk, making his way directly towards the relic, which is laying on the ground. And Bashful's going to use that fast shot ability to open fire twice with that long rifle. Now the long rifle does strike at strength 4 with -1 AP as well as 1 damage, and also has the potential to trigger knockback as well. And because of that, Bashful does have a unmodified ballistic skill of 4+. Doesn't get any bonuses because he decided not to aim because he's just firing as a simple action, which means he needs to have a 4 in order to hit. Now unfortunately for Bashful, he missed his shot and also triggered an ammo test as well, and the ammo test does pass. And so because of that, Bashful needed to take a second shot in order to fire directly again at Jax. Unfortunately for that time though, the kiddo missed again, so because of that, both shots missed with Bashful. So as you can see on the mini-map, Bashful did miss his shots directly at Jax, so because of that, fighter number 3, which is Happy, which is the champion, he's going to try his luck now. Happy is the fighter in orange, that massive mining laser, and he does have a suspensor on that mining laser as well, so because they can fire that weapon as a basic action. And once again, he's also going to take a basic action, aim his mining laser, and another basic action, open fire directly onto Jax, who's in the middle of that walkway before. So the mining laser does have a -1 hit penalty because it's firing at long range, but it strikes at strength 9 with -3 AP as well as 3 damage. Now Happy did take a basic action or to aim his last gun, so he gets +1 to hit, so that +1 to hit modifier from aiming does cancel out the -1 to hit penalty for the long range shot. So because that, Happy will be firing at his unmodified ballistic skill of 3+. So in order to hit this target, he needs to roll 3+ on a d6. Needless to say, the hit is good. Now the mining laser is striking at strength 9 with -3 AP as well as 3 damage. Now strength 9 versus toughness of 3 for Jax means that Happy needs to roll a 2+ in order to wound. And of course he has no problem making those wounds as well. Jax does have an armor body glove with flak armor, normally giving a 5-up armor save, but with that -3 AP, he gets no armor save whatsoever. He gets 3 wounds put directly onto him. Needless to say, Jax does go out of action, rolling a 42 on this one, so because that, he is partially deafened, which means he loses 1 to his leadership, but he makes a full recovery, so no harm, no foul there. Silas, on the other hand, which is the little Neotech is on the bottom, he also managed to pass his cool test. I think he rolled either a 10 or an 11 in order to pass his cool test, because that Silas is unfazed, seeing his buddy getting atomized by a mining laser. And here we are back to the little mini-map. As you can see, fighter number 4 from the Velvet Privateers, Jax, has been blackened out to represent the fact that he is no longer participating in this battle report, and his name is also highlighted in red to represent the fact that he's been taken out of action as well. So not to be outdone by the Venators, Warlord Ace decides to activate Silas, who decides to open fire with his hand flamer directly at Grumpy, which is the fighter, of course, on the other side of that relic area as well, and decides to cut loose of that hand flamer as well as open fire with his last pistol as well. So here's a close-up of the mini-map. As you can see, player number 5, which is represented by Silas, has been greened out to represent the fact that he's been activated, and that red arrow shows him opening fire with his hand flamer, as well as his last pistol directly at Grumpy. Now, unfortunately for Silas, his last pistol misses. However, though, his hand flamer automatically hits because it's a template attack, and striking at strength 3 with -1 damage, as well as the blaze trait as well. So because it does have to make a wound roll. Now he is firing at strength 3 versus toughness of 4 from Grumpy. So because of that, he needs a 5-up in order to wound him. And as crazy as it sounds, Silas managed to land a wound directly against Grumpy. Now, Grumpy does have light carapace armor, which gives him a 4-up armor save. He actually fails his armor save, so not only does he suffer a wound, but he also suffers the blaze trait as well. So now he's not only pinned, he's also got a wound on him, and at the same time, he's also got blaze put on him. And after, of course, shooting with his hand flamer, does another basic action to basically move up directly towards the little relic. So he's like hovering right above it with his grab cutter. And as you can see, Grumpy is currently pinned. He's got a wound on him as well as the blaze trait attached to him. And here's a close-up of the mini-map. As you can see, Silas, after shooting, moves up directly towards where the relic is located at. If you notice that player number 7 for the Wild 7, which is Grumpy, does have his little circle oranged out, and the reason why is represents the fact that that character is currently pinned, as well as he's got the blaze condition on him as well. He's also got one of his wounds also missing on top of that. So going back to the Kiddo does a group activation with Snow, White Line Nightmare, as well as Doc. Both those fighters do double movements across the gangplank that they're currently on and make their way directly onto the top level, the second to top level of that little 3-layered tower right directly in the middle of the tabletop. Looks like she's going to try to close a distance so that way she can put some hurt directly onto the Van Saar. Going back to Warlord Ace activates his sub-tech Onaya, who does a double movement across that catwalk to make it directly towards that tower there on the right-hand side. As you can see, her double movements of 10 inches actually towards directly right next to the relic, right between Silas as well as her, so that way they can take turns and hopefully grab that relic for themselves in the next turn, so that way they can secure it as well. For the Kiddo's last activation, she decides to activate Grumpy. The first thing she has to do, of course, is to take a blaze test for this character. Now, luckily for her, she did pass her blaze test in the sense that she didn't actually cause any injuries for herself, so she's perfectly fine there. But she does flee back 10 inches, and when they roll the random direction dice, she actually rolls directly behind her. So because that, Grumpy travels 10 inches and falls off the ledge of the platform and goes directly into the sump, and he also needs to take a strength test to see if he actually goes out of action or not. Unfortunately, Grumpy does fail his strength test, so because he does go out of action, he makes a full recovery, however, though, because he is part of an alliance delegation. And here's a close-up of the mini-map. As you can see, player number 7 for Snow White and the Wild 7, which is Grumpy, has been blackened out. His name has been highlighted as well, and things are not looking very good right now for the Snow White and the Wild 7, with 4 fighters out of action, and with the main brunt of the Velvet Privateers heading directly towards that gang relic. At this point in the battlefield, that my little sister the Kiddo decides to bottle out voluntarily, just because she doesn't lose any more fighters than she currently has. At the same time, there's no hope for her to actually achieve victory, because all she has to do is wait till turn number 3, and then of course my buddy Warlord Ace will secure that relic by doing that double activation in order to do that. So because that takes us directly to the end of the battle report with a victory for Van Saar, which is a hard-earned one for my buddy Warlord Ace, because up to this point he's been losing every single battle. So oddly enough, this is his very first victory. That being said, we go directly to the After Action report, because this battle report is now officially over.
That's it, man. It's game over, man. It's game over.
Alright, now it's time for the After Action report. This is part of the battle report where we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time that we do battle. This is the After Action report for battle report number 9. This is fought between the Kiddo as well as Warlord Ace. So let's start off with Snow White and the Wild 7. They were the ones who actually lost this battle report. So for injuries, Sleepy, Grumpy, and Dopey all make full recoveries due to the out-cold results, so no harm, no foul there. Now Sneezy unfortunately suffered an eye injury, so because he does have -1 BS to his recovery, so because of that he does have to go to Blizzard skill 4 up, and he no longer participates in the battle report. At the same time, when it came to advancements, no members of this gang advanced at this time, and from their territories, from their settlement, they earned 1 point reputation. At the same time, recruit a new Rattling Hunter for free, and that character's name is Rouse. At the same time, also managed to drum up 20 credits from that settlement. From the Rogue Dog shop, they still maintain Dr. Huntsman, which is their Rogue Dog. At the same time, earn an additional 30 credits on top of that. Unfortunately for them, though, they did lose their Promethean cash. They lost it to the Velvet Privateers, so now their territories are only 2 as opposed to 3. Now, they still maintain their alliance with the Abyssal Ferryman team, so that is still going strong for them. Now from the trading post, they earned 50 credits from the Low Tide Sump event on this campaign week, as well as 50 credits from their territory. At the same time, they earned 30 credits from Grumpy's Fixer skill. At the same time, had 20 credits in the stash, which gave them 150 credits in total. With those 150 credits, they decided to recruit another Rattling Hunter named Rhine, and they decided to spend 30 credits in order to purchase mesh armor for both Rouse and Rhine, another 30 credits to purchase last guns for both Rhine and Rouse, and additional 40 credits for hotshot last packs for those last guns for Rhine and Rouse as well. And then lastly, they spent another 20 credits to get blast pistols for both Ryan as well as Rouse as well, and they took the last 10 remaining credits they had and put it directly in the stash. Because of the endless innovation skill for Dopey as well, they also managed to put body spikes on the glass coffin absolutely for free. Now for the reputation, they earned 1 point reputation from their settlement as well as 1 reputation for fighting against the Velvet Privateers for the very first time, but because they bottled out, they lost 1 point reputation, giving the grand total of 7 points in total. The new record now is at 1 win and 2 losses, and the new gang rank now is at 2,115 points. Alright, so let's go and talk about the winners of this battle report, which is the Velvet Privateers of House Van Saar. So, Warlord Ace suffered a couple injuries on this one. Jack suffered a partially deafened injury, so he loses 1 to his leadership, dropping his leadership characteristics to a 7+, but he makes a full recovery otherwise. And same thing with Fjordalise, Mendagina, as well as Violante. They both make full recoveries, no problem. Now for advancements, no members of this team did advance at this time, and from their territories they earned 1 point reputation from their settlement, as well as 50 credits, and managed to recruit a brand new subtech named Onaka. They managed to recruit that guy for free. They also managed to capture the Promethean cache from the Venators of the Wild 7, so because of that now this gang receives 3 free sets of incendiary charges, and because it's won the scenario as well, they also draw from the card deck to get a new territory, and they got a workshop. Because of this, they get a brand new ammo jack named Sulako, who's armed with a bolt gun as well as power sword mesh armor. It's also got the munitioneer as well as the gunsmith special rule, and at the same time also managed to drum up 40 credits from this territory as well. Now for the alliance with House Catalyst, they managed to survive the drawback of debts must be paid. No ones were rolled for any of their subtechs, so they're perfectly fine, and they maintain their alliance with House Catalyst. Now for the trading post, they managed to earn 90 credits from their territories, 50 credits from the scenario, as well as an additional 30 credits from the Low Tide Sump event. They're giving a grand total of 170 credits in total. With those 170 credits, they spent 30 credits for last sub-carbines for both Onaka as well as Onaya, as well as 50 credits to equip those same 2 subtechs with shock staves, and additional another 10 credits to get flak armor for Onaka as well. So no Onaya and Onaka, they're both carrying flak armor with their armor body gloves, they're both carrying last sub-carbines, and they both also have shock staves as well. So these guys are kitted out for close combat. At the same time, they took Onaya's 2 last pistols that she originally had and gave them to both Lexi and Jax, the 2 techs, so now they got sidearms to protect themselves in close combat as well. At the same time, my buddy Warlord Ace also spent 80 credits to purchase a redundant drive system, all-wheel steering, engine shell, as well as nitro burner and smoke vents for his vehicle Lady Elena's Revenge, so that way they actually have all those upgrades for their vehicles as well. Now for the reputation, they earned 3 reputation from the scenario, as well as an additional reputation from their territory, as well as another one for fighting against the Wild 7 for the very first time, which brings their grand total reputation to 7 points in total. The new record now is at 1 win and 2 losses, and the new gang rating now is at 2,020 points. So there you guys have it. That's battle report number 9 in the books. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. You guys' input is valuable to us as always. And if you guys end up doing anything with these Necromunda Community Event rules that we created for between Dr. Drybrush and myself, please feel free to post things up on the internet, on social media, send us links and emails about it. We'd love to see what you guys are doing with this community event. So I am Commander Cheapskate. That's good for this video. I will catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.